we're back.
Amy and Aaron.
Amy and Aaron.
I feel like we're a morning talk show host.
We could be.
We could.
I
feel like we do.
Maybe
really
we
well.
should start doing this in the morning for
We
everybody.
should.
This is how other folks should start their day with us.
Right? We're awesome.
All right, so October, it is still Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we still have a lot happening in the month, but today we are going to talk about safety planning. So let's just start with the basics. What's the safety plan and why does someone need it?
So safety plan is you actually putting a plan into place, even if it's just in your mind, of escape route, who you would call, what resources are out there, what's the shelter's phone number.
Okay. Who are the resources?
Yeah, who would you call, what would you take, what type of paperwork would you need to make sure you had, when would be the best time to leave if you're going to leave, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So it's kind of thinking it out, because people don't understand. Everybody says, oh, the first time he hit me, I'd be gone. But people don't understand that usually by the time he's hitting you, there's a lot more that has happened. Mental, physical, or mental, emotional, financial, the isolation. And so by the time the physical abuse starts, it doesn't feel as easy to just leave. So, and there's a lot that goes into it, because a lot of women who are being abused have children. And that's not something that's easy to just pick up and move. That's a very traumatic, it can be a very traumatic thing to your kids.
Right. Yes.
So those women are not just thinking about themselves, they have to think about their kids too. Absolutely. So there's a lot of planning that can go into it.
Sure. Okay. All right, so I'm guessing safety plans look different depending on where you are in this process.
Yes.
So if you are, where do we start? My gosh. If you are in a violent relationship, and you are not ready to leave for whatever the reason.
Yes.
What does a safety plan look like?
So who can you call in a crisis?
Okay.
So if something gets
who
crazy,
do you really trust?
Who do you really trust?
Okay.
And this is where the family and friends that we talked about last week, letting people know, hey, I'm here for you. Like, just letting them know that you're a safe place. That's where this is going to come into play, because when stuff hits the fan, she needs to know who she can call, or he needs to know who he can call, that's going to help him. No questions asked, no judgment, that kind of thing. You need to know escape routes.
Yes. You
need to know, probably shouldn't go into the kitchen if he's attacking you, because there's knives. You want to stay away from the bathroom because he could drown you. Like, these are the things that women have to think about.
Yep. If you are in
it's very real. It's very real. To stay safe. You want to pack a go bag.
Okay.
So I know a lot of my nursing friends, my law enforcement friends, they have like a duffel bag that they keep with like change of clothes and a spare charger, some snacks, important stuff, so that God forbid they get called in because of a hurricane, or they've already got a bag packed, they can go.
Okay,
essentially the same kind of thing.
So where do you put that bag so that the abuser doesn't find it?
So, but if you can't pack something like that, you need to have a checklist of what you need to grab.
What you can grab in a minute, 2 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
So, one woman I talked to, she knew, like we talked about earlier, that you need the originals of birth certificates. You need the originals of social security cards. So some people are like, oh, photocopy. If you're able to get the originals, photocopy them and put them back. 9 times out of 10, a lot of people aren't looking at that kind of stuff every day.
Sure.
So it's a little bit easier to replace that.
Yes.
You can create an email for yourself that he doesn't know exists, that is strictly for recording purposes, so that if you take pictures of abuse, you can email them to yourself and you can delete them off your phone.
Good point.
You don't leave it saved on your phone, which that leads to a whole other thing, is safety planning with technology. And I mean, it's such an all-encompassing thing. There's so many facets to it. So,
definitely. But
that's one thing, is she recommended getting the originals and replacing the originals with copies in whatever location you have them stored, because it's hard to enroll children in school without the original documents. It's hard to get new driver's license, to get whatever you need, a job. A lot of them want to see your social security card. They don't take photocopies.
That's right.
They want to see the original.
Yes.
So that's something important to have, because it's just another hassle that you would have to worry about.
Definitely.
So just a mental checklist.
Would it make sense if you have a trusted friend or family member to give them the originals?
Yes. So if there's
even copies, honestly.
Or even copies. If that's all you can get, then
put them somewhere else.
Yes. That way you at least have them, because it's going to be important information to have. But yes, if there's a trusted family member, if there's a neighbor who you're friends with and you trust them, you can tell your neighbor if you hear this code word. If I'm talking to you and I say, I really could use a pina colada. Like, if that's not something you would normally drink.
Right.
You know, something to just slip into conversation that's not going to be super out of the ordinary, but to let them know, I'm in danger.
Okay.
I need help.
Okay. I like the neighbor idea too because
they're close.
They're close.
Yes.
And I'm thinking in terms of transportation, that could sometimes be an issue. Depending on the situation, abuser may take the car.
Yes. I have known of abusers that have intentionally disabled vehicles.
Right.
Taken spark plugs out.
Right.
Belts off, things like that before they left for work so that their person could not, their victim couldn't leave.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It all happens.
It does.
Everything. All of
it.
it.
And it sounds so crazy and so far-fetched. But
I know, but
I told you I talked to a woman today.
It happens every day.
Every single day. I think it's every 4 seconds or every 2 seconds or something. I can't remember. I've been looking at statistics all day long.
Yes, you have.
On my lunch last night, I've been trying to prepare. So it's every few seconds, somebody else is being victimized by an intimate partner.
Ugh. So, all right. So that's during the relationship and thinking about leaving. So what happens after you've left? Like, let's say that you leave the relationship and you're at a friend's house, a family member, even a shelter.
Well, first off, when you leave, you need to get a temporary restraining order. It's not going to be a permanent one right away.
Okay.
So you'll get a TRO, which is usually 30 days, I think, and then and that's without having to go to court. And you don't have to have filed police charges. You don't have to have any of that. But you do have to request it. And a lot of the shelters can give you help with that. I know Helpful Horizons can help and assist. Y'all's legal advocacy team can help and assist with getting all that taken care of.
We actually, we have, in case you weren't aware of it, we have a legal team at Helpful Horizons who can help with situations like that, especially with custody agreements, divorce agreements, all of that.
Yes.
We can help you.
Yes. So that's like the first thing.
Okay.
And a lot of people say it's just a piece of paper. And in some ways it is.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Wrong door.
You know what? Reality is life happens.
But that's the first thing you want to do. And then from there, you need to notify schools. Right. You need to notify, like, if you have children, you need to let them know. If your friends need to know, your employer needs to know.
So let's pause there and break that into pieces. So for your kids' schools, what does that look like? Because abuser will still have parental rights.
Not if that restraining order covers your children.
Right, but if that has not happened
then they can
yet,
go take your child out of school, and possession is 9/10 of the law.
So what does that look like when I think that's got to be an incredibly difficult conversation.
It is.
That you leave and the next day you take your kids to school, and what in the world do you say? Who do you talk to?
So you just go into the front office. If you don't want to talk to the secretary or let them know, you can ask to speak with the guidance counselor. You can ask to speak with the principal. But your child's teacher, anybody that's involved with your child during the day, needs to know that this is a serious issue. This is something we need to take seriously, and this person is not allowed to pick my child up, leave with my child, have any information about my child. You can't tell them if they're here.
Right.
Like, this is a very serious issue.
If there's a restraining order.
Yes, if there's a restraining order. That's the only way you can prevent it.
So
you can't just go up there and say no.
Right.
If they have legal parental rights.
Absolutely.
You can't deny those unless legal documents exist to deny them.
If there's not a restraining order, if
you run the risk of them being able to go pick your child up.
Right, but if you have not been able to get that yet, it is literally the next day.
Yes.
Should you still let someone at the school know, just, here's what's going on?
I would.
Because I'm thinking that your kids may show some signs of trauma.
Yeah.
And it might be good to...
Definitely.
It also would bring someone else into your support system.
Exactly. There was a woman, end of last year, she was trying to leave, and she didn't know where to go. She didn't have access to a vehicle regularly, was a stay-at-home mom, and she confided in the woman in the office at her daughter's school, and that woman opened up resources to her just because of who she was, just because she happened to know connections. Yeah. So, and she kept it quiet. She didn't tell anybody, but you know, you don't know who can help you. The same double-edged sword. You don't know who will hurt you with information. But it's always a good thing, anybody taking care of your children, to keep them in the loop. Obviously, need to know basis.
Right.
But the teacher needs to know. Yeah. The SRO at the school needs to know. They need to know.
That's a great resource.
So that they can be on the lookout for, because they cannot, you know, if there's an SRO and they're out watching traffic after school or before school, you know, if they see that person and they know that, they can just be watchful.
Definitely.
Until that restraining order's in place. Yeah. It never hurts to have multiple eyes watching for you.
I like that. So let's talk about your employer, your workplace.
So just in regards to the restraining orders.
Yes.
I actually saw this tip online in one of the support groups I'm in, and I thought it was really cool. I didn't know this existed. So apparently there's waterproof paper that you can, I don't know if it's Staples, I'll have to do more research and let Erin know. Okay. But it's waterproof paper. She had because carrying an entire legal document around can get worn and tattered, and it takes up a lot of space. She had it shrunk down into a tiny, like she had it made smaller so that it's basically like this big. Oh. And then it's on waterproof paper, so it's more durable than this. Wow. If it gets wet, it's not going to run. And she always carries it in her purse.
That's great. Okay.
So she has their full-size stuff at home if she ever needs it. But if she's ever in a jam, if she's ever like fearful and that person's there, or she has to call law enforcement, she readily has that paperwork available that she can hand them. I thought that was so cool. I didn't know waterproof paper.
Right. Exactly. So we have a good friend of Hopeful Horizons, Gene Rogalla, who has a lot of experience with workplace violence, and I will repost his blog that talks a lot about this, but he encourages folks in a situation like this, if you have a restraining order, give a copy of that to your employer and have a conversation with your employer about
what your
options,
safety planning at
work.
I know after I ended things, I wasn't allowed to walk to my car after dark by myself. Okay. Even though my car, I could see it. You know, I wasn't allowed to walk to the car. I worked upstairs on the second floor. Okay. And I had to let my employer know because I had worked there for a while. He'd been to Christmas parties. Sure. He had lunch with me at work. So they wouldn't have thought anything of him walking in the door. Absolutely. So I let my employer know. My boss she let the front desk know. Okay. She let the girls in the phone room know because he was calling and like hanging up. Right. So she let them know, you know, if anybody calls and asks for Amy, you know, screen those calls. You know, if anybody comes to the desk.
You know what I really like about that is the burden she took off of you. That you didn't have to go tell every single one of those people, and you didn't have to tell the whole story. No. That she was able to say, and she
this person doesn't need to be here.
Exactly, and that's all that had to be said.
So if they show up, don't get her, get me.
I love that. Like what a kind thing to be able to do. Also,
takes the weight off of because domestic violence. That's one of the things, financial abuse. A lot of women who are able to have a job in those relationships, they walk on eggshells. In states like South Carolina, where an employer can fire you for any reason, they don't have to give justification. So if they don't want to deal with it, if you're too big of a hassle, that's a real fear. Right. And so there's no protection that I am aware of in South Carolina, in any state really. I think there's some states that are starting to work on legislation to protect domestic violence victims from being terminated because of their situation or whatever. But that's a very real fear, because if you leave and then you get fired and you have children or even just yourself, you can't pay your bills, you know? So you're more likely to go back into that cycle because there's a security there.
You have to, because of financial reasons. Yes. Yes. Really good point. Yeah. Okay.
And you mentioned friends.
Yes.
So you love my story.
I do.
I mean, my friends. No, I won't tell it again. But just making your friends aware of this is over. This is what's happening. This is, even if you don't have, if it ends and you don't have a restraining order. I didn't end up getting a restraining order in my situation. But my friends still knew. Yeah. And so they knew to get me out.
Right.
If they saw him. Or they, even to this day, I get updates.
Exactly.
Hey, this is where I think he's hanging out now. So when you're home, you might want to avoid that area. It's just being aware, then being cognizant of what.
Well, and I think too, as a friend,
mm-hmm.
then I feel like I'm being helpful.
Yeah.
If I know what your safety plan is, or I know what you need, that just makes me feel like I am useful.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that when it comes to domestic violence, well, backing up, I know for me personally, it's really hard to ask for help.
It is. It's very hard.
It's very hard.
Especially when you feel like you're going to be judged.
Yes. And so I think in this case, or in cases of domestic violence, this is where it's time to ask for help. And it is totally okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the help you're asking for could be here, or here, or here, or here. And it could just be, I need you to listen today.
Mm-hmm.
But I suspect that for most survivors, your support network is bigger than you realize.
It is.
And it can be even bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And as a friend, I want to know that I'm here for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's just, the help, the being a helper and asking for help, this is just a big piece of all of this, and having support.
Yeah. And an abuser is very good at manipulation.
Yes.
And so by the time it gets here, they have convinced you that you don't have anybody besides them to rely on.
Right.
That you don't have any resources available. That nobody's going to believe you. That nobody's going to help you. That nobody's going to want you. That, it's your fault. You somehow did this.
Yes.
And so and an interesting thing that I read in researching all this is, a lot of people say that they don't, and this was said to me a lot, I never thought he would do that. He always seemed like such a nice guy. He always seemed, what people don't understand is that abusers have trained their victims. So you could all be sitting in a group situation and talking and laughing, and it looks like everybody's having fun.
Yes.
But I guarantee you, he has given some sign to her if she's not doing what she's supposed to.
Yes.
It could just be the way he looks at her.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a scratch of his face and she knows he's agitated. It could be him tapping his foot. It doesn't have to be outright physical abuse, because that's mentally controlling somebody. That's emotional abuse. So just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening right in front of your face.
Absolutely.
And that's something so important to understand.
Wants to portray a good image of the abuser.
Everybody wants to look perfect for Facebook and Instagram.
And for your own protection.
Yes.
If you are in that situation, because my gosh, you may not want anyone to know what just happened or what you think is going to happen when you get home.
Because but at that point, you know what the consequences are going to be.
Yes.
And that it's a very calculated risk every day.
And help me here, I think that does not go away.
It doesn't.
Just because you've left. So the challenge is still going to be there. The abuser will attempt the mental control for as long as he can.
The legal system is not set up in a way that will protect a woman in a domestic violence situation and her children. There are obviously protections, a TRO, but I have many friends who even now currently are going through abuse through the legal system by their abuser. Right. They are no longer with them, they no longer live with them, but that person is using their child as a pawn because they know how much it hurts them. They could care less sometimes. There could not be an ounce of care in their body if they really get that extra visitation or but they're going to fight for it just because they will financially drain every resource you have available just because they know they can. Yeah. Especially if they are in a more financially secure situation. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it happens every day.
You mentioned kids. Let's talk a little bit about safety planning with kids. Boy, what a delicate topic.
And that one makes me sad. That just, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. Yeah. Because I can't, because that's why I left was just the thought of children. Right. So I can't even imagine the strength that it takes for a woman to go through something like this with children.
And we see a lot of kids at Hopeful Horizons who have seen very violent situations, who have tried to protect mom, or who have witnessed it against a sibling.
So
tell us what you
think. If you're living with them, so one thing I read was to teach your children in a generic way. Not say, if daddy is doing this to mommy, then this is what you do. You teach them generic things. Like, if you ever see somebody hurting another person, you don't intervene. If somebody is hurting somebody at home, if somebody's hitting somebody, then go to this neighbor's house and get help.
I like that.
Teaching them to, when to call for help.
Right.
How to call 911. If your phone is password protected, it still can call 911. Like, you can still pull up your phone and they can still dial 911.
Okay. Boy,
And I swear my 4-year-old knows how to work my phone better than I do sometimes.
Right, of course.
So they'll figure it out.
That and the TV.
Yeah.
But that right there is domestic violence or not, that is a great lesson that all of our kids need to know, which is how to call 911 from a password protected phone. It's Tip Tuesday. All right.
No, but like this is, one of the things I pulled up.
Amy
I'm sorry, I have to use my notes.
We will post them, I promise.
But how to call 911, a safe place to go, a neighbor's house to go to, a safe place to hide. A code word. Like we talked about code words with a neighbor. One of the tips I saw was to teach your kids a code word. And one of my favorite episodes of the show Blue Bloods is where the father of the family had taught his family a code word. And if you ever heard him say that code word, didn't matter where you were to duck and cover, because it was about to get real. And so that's in any situation, not just domestic violence, but to teach your children, if mama says this or dad, if we say this word, it's a serious situation. And it doesn't have to be something crazy. I think in this show it was no one will hurt my family. Like, that was the phrase he said. And if he said that phrase, something like that, his sister knew that she was supposed to drop, and he pulled a secret weapon out and took care of business. So there's all different kinds of...
If only we all had a secret weapon.
Right? We do, our brains.
Right, our brains, right here. This is our secret weapon. Yes.
We're somebody's secret weapon right now, hopefully.
We are. I hope so.
Yes. And encouraging your children that it's okay to talk about their emotions. It's okay to come to you. It's okay to say if they're upset, if they're angry, if they're sad. And teaching them that it's not okay to react with violence.
Yeah.
That you need to use our words. Yeah. Struggling with this, my 4-year-old right now. At 4, it's hard. They're still learning.
Gosh.
They don't know how to verbalize
in their little brains all at one time.
Yeah, they don't know how to verbalize
all that.
So it's just reassuring your child, being the safe place for your child, and making sure they know that it's not their fault.
Right.
So
let me get in a plug for Hopeful Horizon Services. So first of all, phone number 800-868-2632. It's a 24-hour hotline. So all kinds of therapy, child abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault. If you have been in a domestic violence situation, relationship, and you want your kids to get some therapy, we do that.
And your child doesn't have to be with your abuser.
Right.
So, because it doesn't matter if your abuse is happening right now or if it's happened in the past.
Absolutely.
I'm 8 years out, and I still was able to call and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. I need help.
Yes.
And get counseling. Because my son needed help, he was able to come here and utilize the parent-child interaction therapy with Ashley, and that was a life-changing thing for him. And his father is not my abuser. Right. But because I am a survivor and I was utilizing services, he qualified as well. Yes. So I think that's an important thing to mention as well. Just even if your abuse happened a while ago and you've never addressed it and you need help, you can still call Hopeful Horizons for help, and they will still work with you to try and figure it out for you.
Yes. We also have support groups. We have an emergency shelter. And I just want to throw this out. We've had a number of messages through Facebook this week from folks who needed our help. And we will always ask you to please call so that we can point you in the right direction as to exactly who with Hopeful Horizons can help you. I am usually the person that you are talking to if you're on Facebook Messenger. And so I understand a couple of you this week have not been in a safe place where you could call. Just know that when you are able, when it is safe, please call 24/7 and we will be there for you.
So
and all of these services are free of charge. So I'm also just going to get in a quick shout out to many, many donors that we have who invest in our mission, and they are the reason that we're able to do this without charging.
Yeah, looking at y'all's what is it that you do every year, the impact?
Our impact report.
Your impact report?
Yes.
I was looking at that a couple months ago and I was just like, whoa. The businesses, the people who personally donate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty amazing how many supporters you guys have.
And those folks allowed us to serve more than 1,100 individuals last year. So,
and that's not just that's not people that just had to come into the shelter. That's with all the services.
That's exactly right.
A lot of the misconception that I think is that you have to have gone into the shelter in order to qualify.
Right.
That was a misconception that I had beforehand too.
Sure.
Was
but
you had
we serve survivors of child abuse, domestic violence, and sexual assault, regardless of sort of where you are in that process and in the systems.
So one question that I have for you, hopefully you can answer, and then I think we're going to wrap up, is can somebody call on behalf of somebody who may not be in a safe place and find out information for them? Like say somebody's in a situation where their phone is being tracked, their every move is being watched, and they're able to can somebody else, can a friend or a family member call you guys, call the hotline and find out information or find out resources? Is that something that's allowed or able to happen?
So they can get some general information. Yes. In that case, I would really encourage the victim to use someone else's phone. Maybe that's something they can do from a work phone.
Okay.
Or a friend's phone, a neighbor's phone, so that they can get the information directly, and we can really connect them with somebody who can do sort of an intake over the phone and start to match them with the right people.
So the last thing that I want to add, since we are obviously a technology-friendly set of people, we're doing a Facebook Live, please remember to always be safe in your choices on social media, on your phone. There is tracking software out there that can be installed that you don't know exists, that you'll have no idea is on your phone. So if he has access to your Facebook, if he has access, just make sure you're making smart choices about what you're sending. If you are sending a message to Erin, that's a risky kind of thing sometimes if you're actively in the situation.
And this is exactly why we won't give you direct information via
you don't know who you're
Facebook
dealing
Messenger.
with either.
That's hard, and we don't want to put anyone at further risk.
And I'm going to send Erin some links that I found on like ways to set your Facebook privacy so that it's super private, how to hide, because if you're in a support group, like I'm in a lot of support groups on social media, how to hide those from your newsfeed so that if he does have it, he would have to go digging to find it, but you can still access them. They don't pop up. You have to go look for it to find it.
The technology piece, when it comes to honestly all of this, child abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, it is mind-blowing.
It's very mind-blowing.
What I may do for the benefit of everyone is take all your links and put it in a blog, so it's in one place and it will be accessible on Facebook and our website all the time. Good.
Awesome.
Amy, thank you.
Thank you.
So Amy has another speaking engagement tonight. She is going to be at USC Beaufort, the Bluffton campus, to speak to a group of students and talk about domestic violence and what that means at the college level.
The young adult level.
The young adult level.
Because a lot of times it starts in high school.
It does. So one more time, our phone number, 800-868-2632. We're 24/7. We are always there. If you need us, please call. Amy, you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
we
will take requests. Yes, we'll take requests on what you want to hear about next. So let us know what you want.
I think we were talking about trauma bonding. Trying to get one of the counselors in.
That would be a really great idea. So
have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Stay safe.